All right, welcome back, boys. In this episode, we're going to talk about these two cars, a 1972 BMW Bavaria and a 1973 Jaguar XJ6. So both of these are rear-wheel drive, stick-shift European cars with big inline sixes, independent rear suspension, and four-wheel disc brakes. Now, before I start, I want to say I'm not an expert on either of these cars. I'm going to tell you what I know, but I could be wrong about things because honestly, I bought these both as project cars and I haven't really dug into them too deep yet. Purpose of this video is just sort of to compare and contrast two non-running European luxury cars from around the same time period. When I was researching this car, I saw a lot of road tests in magazines back in the day that were comparing it to the XJ6. I would love to have some real-world experience behind the wheel of both of these things, but they're both turds right now and they don't run. So I'm just gonna kind of show you what I'm thinking as I go between the cars. Right away, the Bavaria looks smaller, because it is. It's shorter. You can see here the Jag is extending past the back of the BMW here. What's odd though is that the greenhouse is bigger in the BMW. So even though the Jag is a bigger car, the interior is noticeably smaller than the Bavaria. Just look at the ride height of these two vehicles. Now this is stock height. Neither one of these cars has been modified. The Jag probably sits a good 4 inches, 5 inches lower. I mean, just look at the height of the bumpers, all right? I mean, if these two hit each other, the BMW bumper would be almost going into the headlight of the Jag here. So this has just so much of a lower presence in person, whereas in the photos, they kind of looked similar, and they looked similar in size, but this is just a lot shorter and taller. One thing that's pretty similar about both these cars is they both have a forward opening hood. This motor is probably one of Jaguar's most famous motors, called the XK, and this was produced for also, again, like 3 decades in various refinements. This is a 4.2 liter inline six, and it's kind of styled and designed with the Merlin V12 from like Spitfires and stuff in World War II in mind. It's not like a direct copy of a Merlin. I'm just saying a lot of the thinking and the thought process of this motor was directly inspired by aircraft motors from World War II, which might be true with the Bavaria too. I don't know, but I definitely see it here. This particular XJ6, one of the reasons I bought it is that it has some modifications that make it a little snappier than usual. So originally these came with 2 SU carbs. Yeah, triple carbs on this thing. And then the other thing that's really interesting about this car is that it's a stick shift. XJ6s were not available with a manual transmission here in the States. So the fact that this even exists is weird by itself. Under the hood of this one, we have the BMW equivalent. This is an M30 V28, I think. I don't remember right now, but this is again a big inline six, and BMW had this motor in production for, again, 3 decades. So both of these are rear-wheel drive, stick-shift European cars with big inline sixes, independent rear suspension, and four-wheel disc brakes. Just like kind of looking at both of them, you can see the chassis design is quite different. The strut towers on the BMW are a lot closer to this firewall to give it support. Here you have the strut towers, or a lot of the suspension is on a subframe, but then they're bracing the front of the car with these cross braces here. Here again, it's a lot more modern, pushed further back. And I've only owned this car for a few days, so I'm still learning about it. I think it's really strange they put the horns on the hood. That's bizarre. In addition to the fan on the front of that engine, there's a small fan right here, which is super weird. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little electric fan. I don't know if that was just for air conditioning or what. And yeah, the front of this thing's a little smashed, which sucks. Another thing that's a lot different now that I'm looking at are the door handles themselves. This is a lot more of a modern approach where you lift the entire door handle. Jag is definitely more old school. A lot of the technology in this car was cutting edge in the late 1950s, early 1960s, whereas this car decidedly has abandoned a lot of those old construction methods and touches and gone with stuff that's a lot more modern. The whole chassis is just newer. Obviously the visibility on the Bavaria suffers because I don't have a windshield, but let's hop in here. So this is a completely different experience. The greenhouse is a lot taller, it's a lot more upright, the seat is a lot higher. The other thing to note is that this is not as luxurious as you'd think of a BMW. It's vinyl and real basic in here. There's not a lot of different materials, a lot more modern construction, and the gauges are just a lot more modern. This looks like something you'd see in the 80s or possibly even the 90s. The weirdest thing that I think is so bizarre is that this is the turn signal. Like, I don't know why the turn signals are on the wrong side of the wheel, but they are. It's super strange. Overall, I think it's kind of odd. I mean, BMW is associated with being a luxury car manufacturer. It seems more like a German Toyota Camry. It doesn't seem very special or sporty. I mean, it's tasteful and it's minimal, but it's not like something sporty or luxurious. Not a lot of gadgets here, no power seats, just all manual everything. So it's pretty basic in here. That's in huge contrast to the Jag. Check this out. This interior is nice. The seats are so comfortable in here. Now, there's definitely some British quality problems. I have these deflated foam, you know, sun visors that don't really have a clip or a home here. They just are supposed to exist. But overall, I'm sitting so much lower than that car. And the whole greenhouse and the interior here is a lot smaller. What I think is really weird is the first time I drove an XJ, it was probably like a 1998. And it's such a bigger car compared to like my 1980s and 90s Hondas that I've had. But I almost feel like a Honda Civic, like even an EF, is comparable in size of the actual interior, the usable room, compared to this Jag, which is weird. Overall, the interior in this Jag just feels a lot more special. There's a lot more to look at, it's a lot busier, and it's a lot more luxurious. Another thing that separates these cars, again, I keep saying this car looks to the past and tries to do it really well. That car looks to the future in a lot of ways, but the vent windows, no more vent windows, they've simplified that. This seems like it's from the 60s because that's when it was, you know, new. But that car, it just seems 10 years newer, even though it's a year older than this car. In the back, the Jag's interesting because it has twin locking gas tanks, and you have two different gas tanks on the back corners of this car, which is really weird. BMW did it a little different right here behind the plate. Pretty simple. Really wide trunk, not as deep. Nice little organizer built into the car here. I've checked this thing for rust and it looks real good. This trunk is a lot deeper than it is wide. It's got these filler panels because this is, again, the gas tanks are in the corners of this car, which is super strange. Why do I own both of these? I don't know. I had to pick one of them to restore. The other one I gotta move. I don't have enough room. I don't really know why I wound up with these other than I both found them interesting for different reasons. This is the predecessor and basically what set the scene for BMW to create the sports sedan market. They took their mid-size sedan, they shoved a big engine in it, and they got rid of a lot of the weight and the features that made it more luxurious. So this is a sporty little car here. The Jag, in comparison, this engine won Le Mans like multiple times in the 50s. And it still has the inboard brakes. Jaguar was one of the first companies that came out with four-wheel disc, and it gave them a huge advantage in terms of racing. You know, historically, these cars are both really, really important to the brand. Without this car, Jaguar would have folded in the 60s. Without this car, what would BMW be like today? I don't know. They're both really cool to me for different reasons. Like if I was living someplace that had a lot of twisty roads and I just wanted to go drift around, this would be the car. However, if I had a highway commute and I wanted something just fast and silky on the highway, it sounds like this is going to be what you want to do. I don't know. I don't really do too many car comparison videos, and I'm not going to keep doing this, but I just thought it was such a weird opportunity to have cars like this right next to each other in similar crappy condition and just do a little compare and contrast between them. Which one do you guys think I should fix? Which one do you guys think I should sell? All right, leave a comment below. Later.